Hello and welcome back to the Little Craft House. If we haven't met before, my name is Nicole and I love getting crafty and making lots of things, especially earrings, out of polymer clay. Now, I get a little bit bored of the colours that I have in my stash, so sometimes I like to play around and come up with some colour recipes for some new colours. And once I have those new colours, that inspires me for lots of other little new projects. Just having a fresh colour palette can be quite inspiring. So I thought I would share this colour mix that I've just been working on with you guys. So I'm just using the polymer clays that I have already in my stash. Some of these are a little bit firm, like this brown one. This one is a Souffle Cowboy, mainly just because they've been sitting around. Some pieces have been already pre-cut, others I'm cutting off of the block in the packet. So all the clays that we are working with today are from the Sculpey range. So there is Sculpey Souffle and Sculpey Premo. Now, I like to work with both of these, or this brand, both of these subtypes from the brand. I don't work with Sculpey 3 too often as that's quite soft, but the Premo and Souffle brands are pretty good to work with. They are almost always pretty packet ready. Once you get them out of the packet, they're pretty easy to use. You don't have to do too much conditioning. And because we are colour mixing today, we will be doing the conditioning process as we're mixing the colours anyway. So I'm just starting by, I've started cutting off some of these pieces that we're going to be using, and I'm just giving them a little roll down so that they are flatter and I can chuck them through my pasta machine. So if you've followed me before and come along on my colour mix tutorials, you know that portions are super important. So they've all gone through the pasta machine at the thickest settings. That way they are all nice and level. And then I'm going to cut my portions out using the same sized cutter. Now I'll just go through which colours I am using here so that way if you'd like to replicate as well, then you will know what ones I'm using. Okay, so starting from the bottom, we've got Premo White, Premo Turquoise, Premo Purple, and Premo Wasabi. There's Souffle French Pink, and above that is Souffle Pumpkin. The brown is Souffle Cowboy, and the Premo Orange is above that. I've got green, that one is Souffle Racing Green, the Premo Cayenne Red, and lastly, we've got Premo Zinc Yellow. So I'm just going to go along and cut out all of my portions now using this cutter. Now I do like to use a symmetrical cutter. The square works really well, and sometimes I'll use a circle. The reason for this is that, especially in today's recipe, I'm going to be doing halves and quarters. So if you have a symmetrical cutter, it's much easier to portion those pieces down than if you were to use, say, like a love heart or something. If you were doing one-to-one recipes, it really doesn't matter. But yeah, with today, we're going to have a few different combinations. And yeah, so it's easier to use a symmetrical cutter so we can halve and quarter those pieces. And because I rolled each of these pieces originally through the pasta machine, I can just bunch up the scraps and pop it back through, and then they're once again at the same level. I probably will need to cut some more of the green and yellow and definitely more white. We're going to use lots of white in today's recipes. So yes, I'll definitely need to do some more of those. Now, if you've never done a colour mix recipe before, don't let it scare you, don't let it intimidate you. It's super easy and we're going to go through it step by step. So don't be overwhelmed by this. It is going to be nice and easy and we're going to end up with some beautiful colours. So whenever I do colour mix recipes, I like to record down the recipes that we're using, and I will show and share that with you guys. So I usually have some custom made cards that I record them on, but I'm currently out of those at the moment. So whilst I wait for them to arrive, we're just going to use the backs of some old business cards. So at the end of each recipe mix that I do, I shall write it down and show you guys. So if you want to screenshot or copy the recipe down for yourself, you are more than welcome to do so. Right, so let's get on with our first colour mix. So I've taken one of the portions of the souffle pumpkin and I have halved it and then quartered it. So I'll pop the extra quarters to the side because we don't need those, we just need one of them. So we are going to use 1/4 of pumpkin. We also need 1/4 of the cowboy as well. So I'm just going to do the same again. And pop those extras to the side because we'll definitely be using those afterwards. We're also going to add 1 portion of the French pink and 2 portions of white. So now I need to blend these all together. I'm just doing a little fancy stack sandwich here, but you can just mush them all together. They weren't playing nicely anyway. Okay, so to start with, I'm just going to flatten them down a little bit using my roller because when we use pasta machines, we don't want to put our clay in super thick because it will put too much pressure onto our gears. So I always like to just start using my rolling pin anyway. And of course, if you don't have a pasta machine, you can just do it using your acrylic roller, although the pasta machine does make it a lot faster. So I'm just making sure that this is on the thickest setting to start with, and we're just going to start popping it through. Now, whether you're using your pasta machine or the acrylic roller, it is always super important that each of the folds goes to the side as you're rolling it out. This will help to squeeze out any trapped air, or squeeze out any air so it doesn't get trapped. And you may notice that sometimes I do a bit of a triple fold where I fold the pieces into the center, and that helps to mix in any of those colors that sort of get pushed to the edge. Okay, so that is our first color. See, I told you it was nice and easy. This one is a bit of a warm beige color. I'm not going to name these colors, but obviously if you do them yourself, you can definitely give them a name. So I'm just going to write down the recipe here on the card now. And I'm just going to put in brackets at the end whether it's a souffle or a Premo. Personally, I tend to know what they are from the names of each of the clays, but I will just write it down for you guys just to reference that. So it was 1/4 cowboy, 1/4 pumpkin, 1 French pink, and 2 white. And I'm just going to cut myself a little sample piece of the clay, and I'm just going to pop it on the top of this card for now, and later on I'll take them all off and bake them up, and then I'll be able to permanently stick them onto my proper cards once they arrive. Right, so on with our second colour. Now, you guys know greens excite me. I love making different blends of green. I should probably just do a whole colour mix tutorial dedicated to greens because I just love the greens. Anyway, so we're going to take 1 piece of forest, 2 pieces of the white, and 1/4 of cowboy. And we're just going to mix these ones up together too. Okay, so for the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to just mix this one with the acrylic roller, so not using the pasta machine. As you'll see, I probably have to do it a few more times than what I would have had to do it if I put it through the pasta machine. I also find it easier and faster if you can roll it down quite thin onto the tile as well. So the thinner you get it, the quicker it the colours blend together. Now, you will also notice that during the process, whether it be through the pasta machine or with the acrylic roller, sometimes you get some really nice marbled effects, and I have been known to actually keep some of my colour mixes mid-mix because the effect that's created is actually really nice. You'll also see that I'm doing quite a few of the triple folds here as well, or double folds here as well, just to keep it in a nice sort of square rectangular shape. Right, there we go. So that is a beautiful sagey green colour. Always one of my faves. So definitely going to write the recipe down now. So we've got one portion of the forest green. And that one was a Premo. We've also got the quarter portion of Cowboy Souffle and 2 portions of white. Now when it comes to the white, I don't know if I mentioned before, you can use the Souffle white, the Igloo, or you can also use the Premo white. The one I'm using today is Premo white, but it doesn't really matter which one you use. Right, so there we go. That is our green, our first green. Okay, now we're going to head to our second greeny colour of our mixes today. And we're using 2 portions of white, the quarter portion of Cowboy, and 1 portion of the zinc yellow. Now when the zinc yellow is mixed with that Cowboy, it tends to go a bit of a greenier colour. So yeah, so let's have a look. I'm going to pop it through that pasta machine and get it going. And sometimes you really just got to trust that process. I mean, it's looking kind of gross at the moment, but as it blends away, the colour does get nicer, trust me. There we go, we've got some of that yellowy green coming through. And as I mentioned before, like with the acrylic roller, if you can start off on the thickest setting with your machine, but if you turn it down a couple of notches, make it a little bit thinner, it does help to break down those colours and mix quite a bit faster. Okay, so we're going to record that down now. So it was 1 portion of the zinc, which was Premo, got 2 portions of white, and a quarter of the Cowboy, which is Souffle. And I'll just pop my little sample piece on top. There we go. And I just thought I would show you these first 3 colours together because they actually coordinate really nicely together. Okay, next up in our mixes, we are going to do a version of orange. Now there are quite a lot of oranges available in both the Souffle and Premo ranges because you've got your bright orange, which is what we're using in the mix. There's also the pumpkin and the burnt orange, as well as there's some corals and sunset pearls and that sort of thing. But for the purpose of this colour palette, I just wanted to make something that coordinated really nicely in with these. And I also don't have a lot of the other oranges on hand at home too. So I just thought we would make our own, and yeah, that way it just fits nicely in this colour palette. Now this mix here is definitely one like I was talking about before, where the marble effect actually looks quite nice during this mixing process. Those colours look really nice together, and I think that I might have to do some earrings using the white, orange and pink combination because yeah, it just looks really nice. And then that way I also know that mixing the scraps together will create a nice colour too. It's funny when you're mixing through here, sometimes you think you're done and then you'll just see a little fleck of white that just needs to be blended in that little bit more. So I'm just doing a couple of extra runs through here just because I did spot some bits that hadn't mixed through properly. It's also quite a therapeutic thing, popping it through the pasta machine. I quite enjoy doing colour mixes. I find it quite relaxing, which is why I share so many here on YouTube with you guys. Yeah, so I really like this peachy colour that has been created in this mix. So just writing down the recipe, we've got 2 of the Premo orange, got 2 portions of white, half of French pink, which is Souffle, and 1/4 of the cowboy, which is also souffle. So an additional benefit to having the little colour sample swatch on top is not only just so I know what the recipe is for, but also if I'm looking for some colour combinations to see what matches and what goes together nicely for a project, I can always refer back to these little sample chips and yeah, work out colour combinations from there. So lots of uses that they come in handy for as well. So I'd run out of my pre-portioned pieces, so I'm just going to chop up some more and put them to the side. So for this one, I am going to be using 1/4 of cowboy, along with 1 portion of turquoise and 2 of white. Oh, look at that transition. Totally seamless. The colour's not showing up quite as nicely here. You know how the cameras always do weird things with blues, but this one's a bit like a sea glass bluey green colour, which is absolutely beautiful. And I must apologise here, I do write down the wrong portion of cowboy. So we have the 2 white, the 1 turquoise, and I've written half cowboy, but it was actually only 1/4 of the cowboy. So I do go through and correct myself after I finished filming when I realised what I did. But yes, just make a note here that I did make a mistake. And that little sample piece is misbehaving. Maybe because it knows that I've written the recipe card wrong, I'm not sure, but there we go. So there is the mistake on that. Right, next colour. So no colour recipe of mine would be complete without some pink. So I'm having to use 2 of the quarters. So half of a portion of French pink. We've got 2 white, 1/4 of cowboy, and a portion of the cayenne red. I always get confused on how to say that word. I'm pretty sure it's cayenne. Please, if I'm saying it wrong, correct me in the comment section. Leave me some phonetic spelling so I know how to say it right, because I always say it the way I say it and it's probably wrong. Okay, so I'm just rolling this one down that little bit thinner and then popping it through the machine. This colour combination here is also one that quite often creates a nice marbled effect too, having the pinks and whites and the reds. Very Christmassy actually. And in case you haven't noticed, I did speed this one up just so you're not sitting there watching me do it through 1,000 times. Right, so that one turned out really pretty. I really like that pink. So cut my sample piece first this time, doing things a little bit differently. And I'll just record down the recipe. I think I'm having trouble sticking these sample pieces because these cards are quite shiny, so I think that's why they're not wanting to stick down nicely. But as I said, I'm going to bake them up afterwards anyway, and then once I get my proper cards, I'll just glue them on. Right, so the recipe was half a portion of French pink, which is souffle, 2 white, 1/4 of cowboy, and 1 part of the cayenne red. Okay, so we've come to our last mix of today's session. We've got 1 portion of the French pink, we've got 2 portions of white and 1 of the purple. Cute little colour sandwich there. Let's get it conditioned down. So originally I actually didn't have a purple in this mix, but I felt like it was missing something. And when I was sort of looking at my colours, I was like, no, it definitely needs that purple. So that's why I've included the purple, and it actually is a really pretty colour. I don't often use the purple straight out the pack. I find it a little bit dark, but by mixing it with these colours, it's definitely a really nice sort of lavender, lilac-y lavender sort of colour, much nicer, and I do see myself using this one quite a bit now. It matches really nicely with the pink we just did, and also if I was to do it, I would probably do something with white as well. So that way that pink, the purple and white, that's always a beautiful colour combination. Okay, so that little cutter's playing tricky with me today. Oh, I'm getting it stuck in there. Usually if I kind of push it on a bit of an angle, it helps. Let's just go with a second one. Nope, it's being stubborn, it's getting stuck. Oh, now I get the two. Okay, it's just because it's the last one, it's not behaving itself. I'm not even going to attempt to stick it on that top. It's just not wanting to work for me today. Right, so we've got 2 portions of white. We've got 1 portion of purple, which is Premo, and 1 portion of the French pink souffle. Right, so let's have a look at the colour palette that we have created today. So there is some really lovely colours in this mix. I have a plan to use them all together for a project, so keep your eyes peeled for that one. I'll either do it as a full tutorial or I might do it in reels depending on how I go. But they all go so beautifully together, and I think that I could also pair in either like a white or an ivory, probably the ivory being a warmer colour, and that would look really nice as well. So I'd just like to say a big thank you to you guys for joining me today whilst I mix up these colours. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, and hopefully you've taken down some notes and you can create these colours for yourself. So I will be back again next week with another tutorial, maybe using these colours, I'm not quite sure yet. And if colour mixing is something that you enjoy and would like some more inspiration on other colours, go and check out my YouTube channel, as I have done quite a few colour mix tutorials over the last couple of years. I'm collecting them all in a folder there together as well, so you should be able to hopefully be able to find that, and yeah, give you some more inspiration and some colour recipes. And the best thing about YouTube is that it is all free as well. So I would love if you guys could like this video and also subscribe, because that helps me to be seen by other people and new polymer clay artists as well. So thanks guys for joining me today. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you again next week. So I'll see you then. Bye.